Well, hello, hello. It's DNN Dave, and we are in our, let's see, what month is this? This is March, March 17th, DNN meetup for Southern Fried. And we've got all kinds of cool stuff happening today. And we'll just jump right in it because unlike last few meetups, we only have one presenter today. So I'm going to go ahead and start out the meeting by just making a call out there. Hey, if you have something that you'd like to share about some cool stuff you're doing or something that you found interesting and want to do a little bit deeper dive for people, reach out to either myself or Ryan Moore or Clint Batterson. Let us know. We'll be glad to get you on the schedule to present. It's a great, welcoming and warming environment where people are very gracefully, allowing people to be themselves. It's not formal, right, Heilene? so, actually, we're definitely looking for content. So if you are interested, do reach out and let us know. We'd love to have you on board. I mean, even if you're a vendor in the ecosystem and you have a cool new release of something that you're doing, or a new module, or a new solution that you're building on DNN, as long as it's remotely related to DNN or so forth, just come on in and we'll get you on the schedule to present and share it. We'd love to get back to the point of having 2 presenters per session. So I guess let me go ahead and share my screen here and go over a few things here at the beginning. Hopefully I'm sharing the right screen. Are you guys seeing the meetup screen here? Okay, I wasn't sure exactly which screen I shared there. A few things kind of to start off before we get into the presenter today. We'll go through a little bit of sponsor recognition and some community buzz and announcements, and kind of open it up for that for anybody here that knows of things that I did not mention on this. But as always, I'd like to thank our sponsors. Our website, southernfrieddnn.com, is hosted by managed.com, and we thank them for continuing to put up with us and have that out there. And we also have a few modules on the site that help us to better get the content out there for recaps of these meetups. And I think one of those is Mandeep's live blog solution. So thank you to Mandeep's for gracing us with a license there. Let's see, community buzz. I have a few things on the list here, but I'm sure that I'm going to miss some things that have been going on in the community that I wasn't aware of, or have just had a little bit of a brain lapse as an old person here. So I wanted to kind of remind everybody, because there's so much activity going on in the community that's just on GitHub that may not be surfacing in other channels like on Facebook or on the Slack workspace for DNN community, or wherever else you may be, the forums out on the dnncommunity.org. So I wanted to kind of highlight a little bit of that activity out here on the DNN community organization on GitHub. So it's a good place to go, and if you find a project that's of interest to you, specifically, you can follow that project. And I'll just take DNN Elements here as an example, and see the watch area here in the stars. Stars always really helpful to get stars because, hey, everybody likes to be recognized. So the more stars we get, the more visibility those repositories get within the GitHub universe. But you can mark the watch to be either all activity or just whenever there's a new release or a mention of you on there. So I definitely encourage you to do that, just to kind of keep up with some of the activity that's out here, whether you're a developer or not. Sometimes it's nice to see the releases coming out for the various modules and extensions that are out there. A few of them are opened up here just to kind of highlight these, and I won't go into much detail about a lot of it, but just kind of touching on a few that's had some activity over the last month. First of which is DNN Elements, which we talked a little bit about. I think it was maybe the last meetup. We kind of highlighted that one, so I won't go into a whole lot of details, but it's basically a collection of web components that eventually, hopefully, will make it into the platform and be able to be used within some of the controls in the platform, as well as for module developers to utilize those components in their extension development efforts. But there's quite a bit going on there. Some exciting new components. Daniel, I don't know if you want to highlight any of them or not, just briefly there, or.
Yeah, well, there's the documentation site that shows them a little bit. We are working on migrating this to a storybook, so it's a bit more
Oh yeah,
user-friendly to see them. It's a work in progress. When it's done, it's going to migrate. And if you scroll down to the actual README, there's a link, and you can see it directly in GitHub, the components that are already built. So there's buttons with a couple of special features and color pickers and tree state checkboxes. And I mean, that could be a meeting all of its own. There's an image cropper that allows selecting an image and to crop it in the browser without uploading the huge image on the server, and you just upload the cropped version of it. It even supports webcam. It can take like the picture for their profile, tabs and nested lists that you can use for various things. You know, it's multi-purpose. Also, there's a kind of drawer thing here, a vertical split view where you can split the user interfaces into two parts, collapse and expand it. This one is a bit harder to see, but you can have a toolbar. And if the items of the toolbar don't all fit in the allotted space, then they collapse into a secondary menu. So it's very useful for toolbars for modules and stuff. And everything is made responsive per the component size. The page size does not matter, as opposed to something like Bootstrap, where it's the page size. Here, it's aware of its own size. It's very cool, and everything in here is keyboard accessible too, which is pretty nice. And they are standard web components, so you can use them anywhere. You can use HTML, so it could be without the framework or inside of any other framework if you want to use this in React or Angular or plain JavaScript, or even just as HTML in a page. We are also working on the next one coming up is a permission grid. If you go to the pull request, there's a screenshot of where I'm at. It's still in progress, but eventually this will replace the current permission grid that shows up in modules and pages and the file manager and so on and so forth. And it's also all keyboard accessible. Everything I said about the other ones is also true here. And that one is still in progress. It was a bit complex.
Yeah, one of the reasons I brought this one up first here is just simply because a lot of the work that's going on in this project is feeding other projects. So one of which is a new file manager that's being worked on, and some of the menu component that Daniel was mentioning just now is being used in that. The split view is being used in that. Quite a bit of these components that are being used in that to be able to build that. So it's just a great example of how a strong library can actually be used to, or a component library, if you will, can be used in a generic fashion on other projects, regardless of what framework or no framework that it is using. In the case of File Manager, it's web components based as well. So it's more of an app built on a bunch of web components, a lot of which are in DNN elements. So yeah, right now, and I thank you for mentioning the storybook. For those of you who don't know, like right now, the kind of the demo of all these components are on kind of one big page. So we're working to put this into a nice developer experience kind of for the documentation of it, as well as seeing it work and kind of having a playground to change that and see what the changes of the various properties and things like that do on the components. So that's a nice effort, and it'll be to the point where it'll be published to GitHub as well as the for the documentation. So that'll be nice. The next one that I had here was structured content. Just a brief mention of this. I know, Daniel, you did some updates on this one recently to bump some of the dependencies up and kind of get it up to date. So This one may have seemed to have gone on pause for a little bit, and a lot of that is because some of the focus is on the DNN Elements project to be able to build some of these components that we need to use in structured content as the UI gets built out on this one. So I would definitely recommend keeping a watch on that one. Just a quick mention that, and I probably should pull up the DNN community site here as well. You may or may not be aware that now we have the Security Center on the DNN community website. And this was done as actually a web component. It actually used the collapsible from DNN Elements. So just another example of how those elements can be used. And now you can come out here instead of going to the old DNN software security center to see vulnerabilities that apply to particular versions of DNN. So selecting your, it works just the same way that the other one did. And that's nice to see out there. That project is actually out on GitHub here. So if anybody's interested in how web components were used with that, or interested in kind of how that module works, it's all open source and you can see that out here. I imagine there won't be a ton of changes to that over time. So I guess is unless something changes on the back end that serves the data for that, unless something changes there that's needed, you probably won't see a whole lot of movement on this project moving forward. It was just an effort to get it published on the community site. The next one here, I'll mention DNN Docs, which also may seem to have been paused, and that's because, well, it's kind of been paused. We did finalize the starting kind of new information architecture, if you will, of the docs site. But as soon as I started kind of working to see what it would take to get it into that structure, I started realizing we've got to write quite a bit of content. So it's just been a little bit on the back burner for me to try to rally some people that are interested in this kind of thing and get a little bit of structure around how we're going to do that to make it easier on those that are contributing. So hopefully we'll start seeing some movement on that project here in the next month or so. Another one that did get started, not a ton of work been going on the last month on this, but it is the start of the user voice, DNN user voice. And the hope here is that this will be a module that sits on the community site and allows us a little bit better way for ideas to be shared for changes to DNN without kind of cluttering up the GitHub issue backlog there, just to have discussions about things and also to get feedback from people on whether or not that would be something that's of interest to them. And I can't remember if I put a screenshot. No, I didn't put a screenshot. But this is just kind of the start of that project, so hopefully we'll be able to move it forward a little bit. Again, being fed by DNN Elements, so that's another thing. And it will actually feed some new components being done for DNN Elements, so that'll be nice. We definitely encourage more and more people to get on the web components wagon because it'll help all these projects that way. Let's see. I did see some activity recently on the DNN community forums module out there. I think a pretty big PR came in from John Henley there to do some work related to the, well, this one's clearing of cache, but there was something about localization, if I remember correctly, or I'm not too familiar with all the stuff that's been going on with this one, but
I know I've had a ton of emails about this one, so there are a lot of activity going on.
Time zones. Time zones, that's what it was. Okay, so there was a pretty big PR that came in about how time zones get translated, you know, and where the source of truth and all this was our most favorite topic there in development world is managing times, right, appropriately. So yeah, so some movement there. So hopefully that'll trickle up into a release soon to be able to get some nice updates to the forms. And this module drives the forms that are out on the DNN community site. Last one here that I had up is there were some updates to the links module. I didn't even know you were doing this until I was looking at this today. Well, that's April of 2021. Why do I have this one on the list?
I think it's a pull request there.
I saw it right here that 4 days ago. Oh,
yeah,
that's
it's
what
a pull
it was.
request.
Okay.
It's not merged yet.
Okay. So Will Stroll put in a pull request here to deal with an exception that's being caused by reflection. So I guess that one will be looked at some point. I don't know too much about that issue, so yeah, looks like you chimed in on it there, but there's probably an issue logged about that.
Yeah, I don't know
So
the
that's kind of
exact issue, but it's something in the manifest that wasn't done right. So it looks
yeah.
good to me, but I don't know the exact issue.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of talk in the DNN community Slack lately about various things, and it hasn't all been tailwind from Aaron Lucas. Sorry, I had to pick on you there a little bit, Aaron. Actually, a nice question came up today from Aaron about pixel perfect implementation of design, and a little bit of conversation about that and how people were dealing with that these days. So that's nice to see some of those kind of conversations happening in there. That's not always all about, hey, how do you do this in code? Which are nice too, but yeah, there's that. Let's see
Do you want
here.
a quick showing of where the resource manager is now, or we're short on time?
That's true. You've actually made quite a bit of progress there. So yeah, why don't you take a little bit, since we only have one presenter today anyways, that would be great for you to do that if you want to,
Yep,
Daniel.
you just need to allow me though.
Oh, I do?
Apparently,
You should be able
you
to
cannot
present.
start screen share while the other participant is sharing. Well, that's
Oh,
interesting.
I'm sharing my screen. That's why. Duh. Okay.
Ah,
Sorry, I forgot I had multi windows open. Yep, shot. There you go.
is it this window?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So it's still in progress, but the overall idea, one of the most requested features was to have a list view. The current, so there's the old file manager. That's the one that's Telerik. If you have upgraded past 9.8, then you can optionally remove Telerik, and the resource manager that is available was something that was done to integrate in the persona bar, but they kind of changed their mind at some point on how they were going, and that's the code base we inherited. And it has only a card view, and the images were cut to circles, and there's no list view, and there's a huge list of UI issues with it that people would like to get resolved. And um, our goal with that one was to just get feature parity so that we can make it possible to remove Telerik as quick as possible. So this is a brand new project started from scratch using the web components and trying to take into account what the comments about people want in a resource manager, which was mainly a list view. So right now what's implemented is on the left. So in the components we saw earlier, we saw the split view, and that's an implementation of it. So you can totally collapse the folders if you just need to work inside of this folder, or you can open it back. Another big issue user comments was that the titles were getting truncated. So in the new one, the titles, they just continue on the next line. If there's room for it, then they're going to be one line. If not, they just take a bit more space. There's a little UI to improve here, but this, plus when you hover, you also get the folder ID, which was a big trend now. People want to know the IDs of pages and files. And so it's not cluttering the UI, but someone who needs that information has it. Then if you pick folders, another big thing, if you have a site with huge amount of folders, it would take forever to load. So on this one, it loads only the root folders. And if you look at my network panel, only when I expand a folder does it load its children. So that should make it way more usable on sites that have huge amount of folders as it goes node by node. And then, well, if you pick a folder, I'm going to take my random folder here, which has 643 items, and it only loads the first 100, and we can configure how many per batch. And as you start scrolling, it's going to keep on adding to the collection. So you get a decent preview of the subset you are seeing, even though the other ones are virtual. They're not downloaded yet, the information for them. So it's very, very convenient that it's seamless for the user, but well, I scrolled a lot here, but it's seamless for the user, but for performance, it's really nice. Another big thing that I wanted was to be able to pick multiple items and do actions in batch. So right now, if I pick more than one, I get a little button here to uncheck them. The actual things that will show on the toolbar will depend if you have nothing selected, one item selected, or multiple items selected. So right now what's implemented is when you have nothing selected, you can add a folder. If you have one item selected, you can edit the item, be it a folder or a file. And this is where the permission grid comes up. So I had to stop here to build the component that is liking to implement in this form. And it's very plain looking because I just kind of stopped here. I need another component. And eventually when we have other types of actions like move or copy, well, that could be done by selecting multiple items, and then you can perform that action on the actual collection. Everything that's done here is accessible by keyboard because they're actual buttons, but I also implemented a right-click menu. So if you happen to have a mouse, well, the same actions you have here, you're gonna have them also as a context menu. And what else? Search and sort. That's pretty much it. So that's where we are now.
It's really cool to
And
see,
I have
Daniel. I
some
mean, it's a
glitches,
lot
but
of
yeah.
lot of work in a fairly short period of time. So thanks for all the effort on
You're welcome.
that. Let's see here. Does anybody else have any other announcements of things that have been going on in the community over the last month that I may have missed? Mitch, since you're here, do you have anything from a technology perspective or anything to share?
Not anything at this point other than the age-old mantra of upgrade, upgrade, upgrade. But hoping to have more in the coming months.
Yeah, did you want to speak to anything about the Evoke versioning stuff a bit just for awareness sake?
That's
On that?
probably not a horrible idea. Really, the shortest version of it is Evoke's versioning has now surpassed the versioning number of DNN platform. Do what you will with it, but my choice right now is not to take my Evoke customers to versions beyond that of DNN platform, just because there's unintended ramifications that could come from that. Third-party module vendors may not know what's going on. Dependency validation may not work the way that folks want it to. Those kinds of things. So my personal preference is to not go beyond the DNN community versions. We are in talks with the folks at, Ignite Tech, ESW, DNN Corp, whatever company we want to refer to them as, around what their plans are and how we can get back into alignment. But we're in uncharted territories in some regards because the community is not 100% decided that we aren't releasing a 9.10.3 release. So when they did this before with 9.6, we had already moved on to 9.7, or actually we may have even already been on to 9.8 when they continued beyond us on the 9.6. But we don't know for sure that we're not going to be releasing a 9.10.3. So that's the only reason to just be aware for those of you on the folk and just make your plans accordingly.
And Mitch, for those that don't know, what is the fundamental problem with going on a later version of Evoke than what we are at DNN platform?
The fundamental problem right now is just that there's not been a known pathway. So if, for example, we release a 9.10.3, Evoke customers that are already on 9.10.6 aren't going to have a way for like database changes that we implement to be executed because the installer looks at your current version and your future version. So now that's not saying that when if they were to release a version of Evoke afterwards, that they wouldn't do something on their part to catch it, but that's an entirely new process that's never been supported before, right? Every time that they've caught up with us, right, they've just magically gotten everything that we've done before. So when they went from 9.6.25 to 9.10.2, everything that was in 9.7, 9.8, all of those versions just magically came along because the installer was incrementally going version by version. So the other thing is there are certain module vendors that set compatibility requirements or functionality requirements. So it is possible that you could run into some compatibility issues, less likely, but still something to be aware of.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's a little bit of a challenge all the way around for people that don't realize the ramifications of those versioning differences. I know for a long time, the Evoke product was based on an older version of DNN, so this wasn't as big of an issue per se, other than just the confusion of the version build numbers and all that. But I think they were based off of what DNN platform 9.6.1 for a long time there. But so now they're not trying to get caught up, but they've now surpassed the version number. So I'm not sure in the history of all this if we've ever really had this happen, but there's fairly large ramifications to it that if you are on Evoke, just be aware of that before you go past the current version of DNN platform.
And I
Thanks
guess
for
the only other note, security bulletin notices will be something else to be aware of. If we end up needing to publish a security bulletin for like a 9.10.3 release, Evoke 9.10.8 will not have that patch included in it. All security bulletins that we are publishing at this time are based on DNN platform version numbers. And David, maybe we need to actually call more attention to that on the community site. We should probably chat offline.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. We probably would make that a little bit more clear because in the past it's all kind of been rolled together as one. And now since we only really have, for lack of a better term, control over DNN platform, that's really the focus of any security bulletins that'll go out in the future. Yeah, thanks, Mitch, for doing that. Anybody else have anything in the community that I may have missed that's worthy of highlight? All right, so I'm going to real briefly share my screen again because I want to connect a couple of dots for those of you that do not know Heilene. She's been in a lot of our meetups here, and as far as DNN Summit goes, I've seen you there. I mean, you've been pretty actively participating for quite some time, but I don't recall you ever presenting, Heilene. So thank you for
this is my
being
first
willing.
time.
And I know this is a topic that I was looking through the archives of all of our meetups. I don't think we've ever talked about this area of DNN. So I know a lot of people are interested. I've gotten quite a few messages from people that said they could not come to or attend this live, but they're definitely going to check out the replay out there. So I think they're excited about. But the dots that I wanted to connect, because I was asking Heilene before this, I knew she was in New Zealand, but I wasn't sure where. So those of you that are geographically not inclined, you may be wondering, where the heck is New Zealand? Well, here's Australia. New Zealand is a set of islands out here. And I've kind of got marked the area where Heilene is in, Christchurch. Is that the way you pronounce that?
Christchurch, yes.
Yeah. And for those of you who have never been to New Zealand, it's an absolutely beautiful country. Just fantastic country. But that's where she's coming from. So it's very early in the morning there for you. What time is it there?
We're now at 8:30 in the morning. So yes.
Okay. So early rise for you
Yes.
there. I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen, but everybody please welcome Heilene. She's going to take it over now and wow us with all the wonderful things that you can do with the members directory. Thanks for presenting there, Heilene.
Awesome. Okay, let me just grab this. Yes, thank you so much for having me. This is very first time presenting for DNN, and just really enjoy being a part of the community. I've learned a lot. So I'll just kick it off. So today I'm going to talk about the members directory and the view profile modules. a little bit about me. So as David was saying, so I'm a front-end web developer in Christchurch, New Zealand. I work for a company called Streamliners. They're behind products, Health Pathways, Stronger School, and GP Docs. We're very involved with the health system here in New Zealand, Australia, and just entering into the UK now as well. I've been quite busy with COVID, supplying online documentation for GPs and clinical clinicians. Our main software that we use is a product called AuthorIt, which allows us to single source online documentation. I'm not going to go too much into that because we're here to talk about DNN. So, right. Our DNN sites. So we've got an intranet site that's built in DNN, as well as we've got our information sites, our public sites, and then most important is our Health Pathways community website that connects everybody from, like I said, Australia and New Zealand. So where it all began with me, I've only been working in DNN since 2018. We had our sites, all our instances were on version 7.2.1 when I started. We're very lucky to got hold of Kelly Forward from Xmod Pro, and he helped us upgrade our first instance that was very, very out of date. So from there, I had the opportunity to jump in and start upgrading all our other instances. I learned so much, and what I found was really, whenever I came across an error, I would just search, do the old Google, and I found I could resolve a lot of the issues that I had because the information was online and on the forums. So yeah, so currently most of our instances are on DNN 9.9. I've got a couple of instances on 9.10. So hopefully we'll get through to those, get the other ones upgraded. And also Telerik has been removed from all our instances. I'm pretty excited about that as well. The Resilience Hub in 2019 in March, we had the unfortunate event of, we had a mosque shooting attack that happened in Christchurch. With our company being involved with the health system, the Canterbury District Health Board approached us to create a website, a hub for the families and the victims to go to. So it was a information site that provided resources like funding, health, and we were, so like I said, we were commissioned to build this site. Because I was doing quite a lot of work with the upgrade, DNN was the obvious choice there. It was also the first time I did a very clean install or first install of DNN. So we learned, yeah, a big learning curve, but yeah, that was, we got through that. So yeah. At the moment, I'm busy working through migrating our sites to a host, a sort of cloud server. Sorry, yeah, and so hopefully, well, I've got a couple of sites now sitting on a external server. Just carry on that one. And then upcoming projects, hopefully we've got a couple of more websites that are coming up. One that will be starting in the next month or so. So yeah, looking at that. Right, so in 2020, I was fortunate enough to attend the DNN Summit. It was a great learning experience. I took quite a lot away from there, especially around security as well on our sites. Came back from there and upgraded all our sites, as well as worked through all the security things we needed to do, all the patching. But that's where I am. So yeah.
I was getting ready to ask where you were because I couldn't find it.
No, it was great. It was really, really good. I mean, unfortunately, I didn't know a lot of people then, so I would have loved to have met all of you guys in person. But yeah, no, it was really.
What I want to
really
know
good.
is, were you leaning up against the circuit board that's orange?
Oh, no, I have to go back now. Yeah. It's like, oh, oh, alrighty. Okay, so the members directory and view profile modules, what are they? They included in DNN by default. So if you do a fresh install of DNN, you will have these modules. They are ready to use out of the box. They display site member information. So anybody registered to the website or that either via registration form or have been added manually, they will be, you can display the information. You can also display members' information in a filtered list, and I'll demonstrate that how that's done. There's an easy search for members as well. So yeah, it allows you to find people easily. The templates use an HTML markup. So, and this is where I've learned a little bit more about Knockout.js. The members directory uses Knockout.js to data bind information from the user profile fields. And then the view profile module template uses tokens. How we've used the members directory here at Streamliners. So our teams are divided into groups. We're over 100 people at our company. So we've got an organizational teams, we've got cross-functional groups, we've got then regional teams that then is divided into 3 different areas as well. So you've got your regional managers, lead writers, and writing teams. And we needed to find a way to display these guys, you know, people who are in different teams, they can be in more than one team, and how we added them to pages there. Now, as a default, this is the layout and look of the members directory. So when I'm done, I'm hoping, well, definitely know that we will be heading to a new, fresh, cleaner design. And then also with the profile view, I'm going to show you how to update the template to something just a little bit more user-friendly. Okay, so I will start the demo. Now, this is the very first time for me to demo code online. So fingers crossed it's all going to work as I'm hoping it would. So
we'll be sure to pray to the demo gods right now. So
I know, yeah, yes, because a couple of times you can add code and then it goes, oh no, that's not supposed to be doing that. So let me just see if my site's still working, and I'm still logged in. So I'd log me out.
that's classic there. You get everything prepared and then you
and then
like,
you get
oh,
logged out,
the
and then you
reload.
wait for the login to go. Come on.
We all know it too well, though.
Okay. Right. So what I've done is I'm going to start with a page and add the module as default. Now, from a previous Southern Fried meetup, it was Jeremy who showed us how to actually add or use the module, adding modules via this panel here, which is great because usually you can just go through the add modules panel, but this is so much easier. So thank you, Jeremy. That's
Speaking
great.
of the devil,
He's just joined. Oh, fantastic. Okay, so right. So as default, so adding the module, what you get is you get the obviously these cards, which is pulling through the user information. Of course, I've just added some users already, so we could they didn't have to watch me do that while I was getting this ready. We've got a search area where you can search for, as well as an advanced search area. I'm going to switch this off for this presentation, so I'm not working with it as much, but also just to show you, it shows all your users as well as your super users as well. So to turn those off, go into the module settings and the member directory settings. So to exclude your host users, under the filter and sorting drop down, you can just select there, and I'm going to select none to turn off the search function. Cool. All right, so now you can see I'm not on there because obviously I'm not part of the actual team, and also the super users have been disabled. The next thing I'm going to do is just rename. At the moment, but there we go. All right, cool. So where this template is being pulled from is on the module settings. Under the settings tabs, you've got these two boxes that contains the template for the members directory. This template does use, like I said, Knockout.js, and it's super easy to add. You can also change, like you can do odd and even display, so you can change your display depending on how you want it. I'm going to start, I'll just go back to my coding there. Right. So for this design, what we wanted to achieve was we wanted a different background to display people in different teams and areas. Obviously having a photo for each user, pull through the name, phone number and email address, and we gave them a job title as well. Now I've used, my theme is built, and we've used Bootstrap for this theme, so I can use the Bootstrap card markup to start building this, building out the template, and I'm going to just show you how to do that. All right, so I've got Bootstrap extensions on my machine, on my Visual Studio Code, so I'm just going to go and look for the markup. So here we've got a card, just a basic card layout. If I go and copy that one and paste that markup into my template box here and update, I'm not going to see any information being pulled through because obviously I haven't put any information from the user profile in there. But what you will notice is that the card layout is not displaying as best as it could, and the reason being is that obviously with DNN there are some default CSS styling that comes with the members directory. Now that I can't update because that's sitting in the back end, but what I've done is I've actually gone and turned those off using the portal CSS. So here's some CSS code that I've done. So what I'm doing is I'm just turning off the default box shadow, the border, the background. I'm removing some of the padding as well as the height. I'm also changing this to a flex layout, so I can propagate.
Do you happen to know if that came from the default CSS or from the module CSS?
It comes
Or
from
you're
the
not
module,
Okay.
CSS.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. Thanks, Daniel. So now if I refresh that, you'll see that we've got a better layout happening there. So before I'm going to add, before I add the markup and change the markup, I just wanted to show you, so where's this information going to come from, right? So we've got users set up. Each user has some basic information like first name, a photo, a job title. They can also have contact information. And what I'm doing is I'm going to add a profile field, which allows us to change out the color of the background there. We've also added a clubs field, so people can, I'm going to demonstrate how you can filter using that field as well. Now, where these fields come from, under site behavior, user profiles is where you can go and set up these fields for a user, right? So if I wanted to add an additional field, I can go and do that, for example, like, so say if we do, let's go with LinkedIn, right? And I'm going to make that just a text data type. And we're going to add it under a social category. I'm not going to do a default value, but we want to make it visible and make it visible to all users. Right. Also need to give it a field name, and this is what we're going to use in the object for getting those properties out there. So now, if I go into my user and I can just refresh the screen, of course it's going to take a little bit longer now. Usually goes really quick. You'll see that my user now has got a category of social, and I can add the LinkedIn field. And I've spelled that incorrect as well, so I'll go and fix that up a little bit later. That's nervous typing, by the way. So great. Now I'll go back to, I'm just going to close that up. So this object properties, profile properties object is honestly that will become your best friend in this scenario of building up the template for it, because you can pull all the information out of that property field. I'll start with the first section. Now what we're going to do is we're going to build this color box, and then we'll add the image in there. Okay, so I have a class added to that, and this is where the fun really happens, because we're going to use data bind to go and grab that color field that we set up. So I'm going to take this field here, this card color field here, and I want to put that as the background color of my color box. So to do that, style, what we're looking for is that card What I do need to show you as well before I add the code in is that card color has been set up or is set up as a list. So I've got my list entries, blue, green, and purple, and then I've just added a hex color. So I'm going to grab that value and add that to the color box. Right. Okay. Now, hopefully this should work. So I'm just copying and pasting that into the template area. There's a lot of copying and pasting with this. So, and there you can see that value has been pulled through, and I can go and update and change that for each person. So the next thing that we wanted to do was to add the image. So this there. And of course, I've got the existing style set up for this already. So back, and I'm going to slow down a bit. So we go, we're going to add the attribute force. And I'm going to grab that profile. And in this instance, we're using a photo. Now, this gives you the actual file path of the photo. If you look at the default markup that is there, that comes with that original setup, it uses this function where you can add sizing to that photo as well, or the photo to the image. So what that, I think it uses the image handler, if I'm not mistaken, and that changes, you can, there's quite a lot of things that you can do with the image handler, like change the background color. I'm not using it in this instance because I'm styling my photo with the CSS I've already written up, but I do need that profile photo file path, and I'll explain it a bit later why that is. So
I am guessing that those are JavaScript functions that are defined on the module JavaScript, and you can do a console log if you want to see what's available and stuff, I'm guessing.
Yes, actually that's a really good point. That knockout, the JavaScript has been written up and it is part of the module itself. But yeah, if you don't know, and it'd be really good to demonstrate how to use that. So but that's a great point there, Daniel. Thanks. All right, so display name. Now I'm adding a title, alt, and display name as well. Okay, so hopefully, well, no, it is going to work. So confidently, quite confident. There we go. So now I'm adding, I've got people's images displaying as well as the background. Now I'm not going to go through writing all of this up. So I have pre-prepared some code earlier as well. But what we did was, for the display name, I also wanted a background on that one. Oh, sorry, the color, not the background, the color of the title. So how I did that was added an href that takes you to the actual profile page. So that will take you to the view profile page. And then we've added the style color using the card color again, and binding the data of the display name. The next bit we had to do was the job title. I've added that here. So that's just where you go and grab, once again, just grab the property out of that object there. And then we did add I'm just going to delete that because we don't need that. So for the phone information and the send email information, same thing, I've added this to a list. And if I go and paste this code back into my template and update it, we'll now see that we've got a phone number with the background of that color, as well as the email. And yeah, so that's all working as I'm expected to do. But one thing I've come across as well, now this is all very new to me as well, because I've not done a lot of work with Knockout.js, so it's been learning as I go. As you can see, this Jimmy doesn't have a phone number attached to his profile. So what do we do? How do we override that? And that is super, super easy. So going back into that line item where the phone number sits, we're now just going to go in, find the data and say that if hang on a minute, I'm just going to do this and make it easy. Fine. So if my telephone number is empty and and it's not display that, but if it is empty, I just want to remove that line completely so we don't see just the label sitting there. And that. Make sure I've got the right code that I've copied. I think so. Let's just save this and see what happens. Cool. So now you can see the phone number has been removed because we don't have any values sitting in sitting there for him. So right, so that is the profile as the members directory module. Is there any questions at this point? I'm rushing through a little bit.
There was one question about the docs thingy, token thingies, and I think that was answered in chat, but I didn't see any other questions.
Okay, cool. Now, so what happens, so every person or every member has a view profile page. When you click through to the default view profile page, that lives under the activity feed page. And this all comes as a default with DNN from a new, like I said, for the fresh install. You've got a profile page, friends, messengers. Now, I've not done a lot of work around the friends and messages functionality of this, so I'm just going to be working with the view profile. But from what I understand, that you can follow people, you can send them messages directly within the DNN platform, view their profiles and things like that. So that's pretty neat if you want to use that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to use this page itself. I'm going to create my own profile view page because I do want to simplify that layout. So I'll add that. I'm going to remove this default HTML page because I don't want to use that. And I'm going to add my own view profile module. I want to disable the fact that people can edit their own information, and we need to load the default template as well so that you can see what's happening there. Now, at the moment, it's showing my information because obviously the user or that's to be used at the moment, but oh, let me just go and turn off the permissions as well on this page, so I don't have to see the box. Righto. Okay. So this, once again, I've gone with I have written up my markup in Bootstrap because I've got that installed as part of my theme. And then, as you can see with the view, the profile view, this use tokens. That profile, the profile token is the one where you can get out to the same properties like we did before and add those properties in using the tokens. In this layout, we've got a very simple layout. I've got a photo on the left hand side and then the person's information. Right. Now let's go and add that into my view profile template. And there it is. Now, like I said, it's showing my information because I'm on the default profile, the profile view. That just so because it's default. Anyway, so yeah, moving on. So what happens now is if I go back to our people page and I click on, say, Kaylee, I'm still going to the old page and the old view. So what we need to do then is under site behavior, under default pages, I need to point the profile, user profile page to this newly created page that I made for that to work. So go back to people page. I now click on Kaylee and there it is. My new design. Can go and switch that, switch the heading off as well. There we go. So that is the view profile page. Now, one thing I wanted to show you was that I had a bit of trouble overwriting or finding a way that I could swap out the default no avatar image for people who do not have a photo. So this is set up in DNN in the module. It pulls through this photo if a person hasn't updated the image or have an image assigned to the user detail. So I had a bit of trouble finding the best way to do it because if it is the image handler, it doesn't actually give you the file, the image folder path, file path. So I've added, because I went through the properties and added the photo, it puts the path, the actual physical path of the image in there, and I could then go into my code, into my CSS, and target that source, target the source, look for the source information, and if it contains no avatar, I can then override it with the no pick, which is a pick that I've added via the site asset manager. So now, hopefully, there we go. So everyone now has a default image that she is using. And if I click through to her, that has pulled through to my view profile module. Okay, so the next thing that, thank you. So the next thing that I want to show you is, well, how do we display people, right? this is now the default view, and that's everybody. Everybody is on this page. I would like to display folks in the different teams. Now, of course, I can't get to my, I'm sharing my screen and I've got the controls over where I want to add things. Hang on a minute. I'll just see if I can shift these out. Here we go. All right. So in here, I want to go and grab the module that I've just set up on our people page. And the reason why I'm doing it this way is that actually grabs the default, the template that I've just created. If I was to add a new one, I would add the old template and the old template that is added, you know, that comes out default with the module. So you can see I've got our people set up. And I want to go and go into the filter and sorting drop down, and I'm going to use the job title, and we are going with team managers. If I go update now, it didn't work. Okay. Of course, because this is a demo, right? And I know why, because I just want the value of team manager, not managers. And there we go. So update this, team managers. Save that. And then I also would like to add, now, this is what I wanted to demonstrate, right? Because I added a module and I didn't use the existing one, it is actually added the module that without any of the values that I configured or the template changes. So I'm going to delete that, and then I'll just use an existing module. Go back. Teams. And in here, we'll go update. Team. Right, so now I've got all my team leads assigned. Cool. Righto. So then the last thing that I wanted to show was, because we had the different clubs added as well, we can filter, we can even use the filter for that. I'll add an existing module. What do I want? And in this instance, I want to display everybody who is in the tennis club. So we'll go look for that profile property and go and grab club, say tennis. Now in this instance, we can have multiple people as part, like a person can be in multiple clubs. So how that is represented in the users box is that in my profile fields, you can add these values and then you just separate them with a comma. And that's how they are filtered and then show up. So same thing with the rugby club. I can add that module. properties. Up and B. You guys know what rugby is? Your side of the world, I'm sure.
I'm not a big sports fan, but I love rugby.
Fantastic. It's very big, yeah.
Savage.
Yeah, no, it's yeah.
It's fun to watch.
Yeah, it's William Wallace-esque.
For sure, yeah. I must be strange because yeah, we don't have helmets and things like that. So I don't play rugby myself, but my son does. Okay, and that's how you can then filter as well using those fields from the club field. And that I think is that. Let me just have a look. I showed the view profile, how to add those teams, and then yes, coffee and pie. Do you guys have any questions?
I am so glad you bought pie. That's awesome.
Well, I'm hungry.
I thought we didn't throw that in from the was it Aaron's presentation through at the DNN conference. So coffee and
Yeah,
pie.
I was going to say, unlike some people that don't give pie.
For sure. All right. So, but that's it. So that concludes sort of my bit of what I've learned from the members directory and the view profile. I'm excited to go and actually see how we can get that values, like Daniel was saying, put that into the console and see what values comes out. So I'll go and try that out a little bit later today.
That is fantastic. I learned all kinds of stuff with this that I didn't know. So we rarely get the opportunity to, do more, community kind of sites where that's really involved. I mean, honestly, the majority of the sites that we do don't even have registration open, much less, kind of a community aspect of it.
Yeah.
So,
I was saying the same before the meeting that it's going to be interesting because it's one area where I'm clueless. I almost never use the feature.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I've actually gone using or having to update and design and style this was that it's used so much through our interweb, intranet site, and we needed to find a way to display all these things and actually make it look a little bit better than what's there. So that's how I learned all of the
yeah, and even if you don't have registration open, this could be a company roster or something.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
So we use it.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Picked up a very cool tech tip there too of using Knockout in the HTML side of things. I was like, wow, never thought of doing that, but that could be applied to a lot of modules in DNN really that have, just the HTML there and like really put the power behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it was, yeah, so you go.
Oh, no, sorry. I was just going to see if anybody had any questions that I missed in the chat or something.
I mean, I'm sure there's a way of doing this into, modules like 260 as well. I couldn't, just because of the time limits that we've got, I had to sort of work with what we got. But I know that I have seen properties in 260 that you can add, and values that you can add that pulls user information. As far as searching and filtering and displaying it, that was sort of where I was, where I fell a bit short.
I think this is great because a lot of people are not in a position where they can or want to go down that path of the structured content approach, and that this is a great way to do some powerful stuff and make it look good right with the core. So very nice.
Awesome.
Do we have any other questions here? getting some comments there. Blown away from Aaron Lopez there. So yeah, good.
Awesome.
That looks very nice from Mark. So those guys
That's
just didn't
great.
want to come on the mic, I guess.
Yeah.
And Jeremy was excited about the knockout stuff. I guess didn't realize that was still in the platform. So that was nice to surface that feature there. So
Oh,
that people could,
excellent. It was quite nice actually
Oh.
learning a bit more of that.
big round of applause to you. Thank you for doing that. And I don't know what you were worried about. You're like a pro at presenting there, and your demo went smoothly. So that's good.
I mean, big shout out to my mum who had to sit through this twice. Bless, she can now do. Yeah, she's now totally up to speed, adding in users and using
Well, thanks,
knockout
Mom.
days.
To her, the DNN community thanks her because
I'll
that was
pass
really
it
good.
on.
Aaron, I think just threw down a challenge to you that DNN Summit 2023 is calling. So this would be a great presentation for there.
I will definitely, yeah. If it's still online, that will be could be a possibility.
Oh, I'm sure it will be. Yeah.
Or I just have to come over to the States again. It'd be great.
I know. I wish we could be in person again. Maybe we will in 2023. That would be fantastic. Wouldn't it? Well, thank you for presenting. Very good presentation. That's one of the better core kind of feature presentations I've seen in a while. A lot of times we end up, bringing content in that's kind of out on the bleeding edge a bit or something. And it's nice to see something cool like this that's right in the core that people can do. So thanks for presenting that. I was looking here to see if we have on schedule for the next meetup. Let's see, where are the meetups? There they are. Okay, you scrolled me down. Okay, yeah, so next month will be on April the 21st, and barring no unforeseen issues, I mean, it shows all to be determined right now, but we'll have Chris Hanneman. He was supposed to be on one of the meetups last year, but had a last minute issue where he could not be here. I think it was something with school or something with the kids. So had to kind of shift him in the schedule, but he's planning on presenting next month. That'll be on April the 21st, and we'll be back to our 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time slot for that one. Thanks everybody for joining. William, the recorded portion of this, it will be available for playback on our YouTube channel. Just do a search for Southern Fried DNN on YouTube, or usually shortly thereafter it's posted onto southernfrieddnn.com with some information there. But since Ryan wasn't here, I don't know if he's going to watch this and make notes and put that out there or not. But I'll try to at least post it out there, even if I don't do a write-up on it. So we'll try to do that. Yeah, so I think that's it. So thanks everybody for joining. And if you're joining us after the fact, I hope you found this content very helpful. I know I did. So thanks a lot.